Hi everyone, my name is Chu Huan, a graduate student at UT Austin. Today I'm going to present our work that's been accepted to AACR 2020, Systematic Generalization on gSCAN with Language Conditioned Embedding. So as an introduction, the concept of systematic generalization refers to the learning agent's ability of extrapolating learned behavior to unseen concepts that are semantically similar to the training data, but beyond the specific distribution of the training set. This kind of ability has long been recognized as a key aspect of human cognitive capacities. So for example, if you know the notion of small and you can recognize the smaller square among this collection of squares in the top right example, then you can probably transfer this kind of ability to recognize the smaller wampum among this collection of wampum images, even though this might be your first encounter of the animal of wampum. Similarly, if you know how to walk and you know how to bike and you know how to walk cautiously through an unstable bridge, at your first go of try to bike through this unstable bridge, you might be able to transfer something you learned from walking cautiously through the bridge into biking cautiously through the bridge, because many things are actually shared. For example, no matter you're walking or biking, you might want to stop constantly just to look around and then make sure that you can either make the next move or maybe like stop at your current place and wait for the bridge to be stable. So this is the concept of systematic generalizations, and what motivates our work is that we found that systematic generalization is really interesting to explore, and at the same time learning good representations of attributes whose actual meanings are actually contextualized. For example, those smaller, lighter, or cautiously things that we have observed in the real life example in the previous slide is actually a quite challenging task now. And in order to achieve systematic generalization, we might also want similar representations for attributes that are conceptually similar. For example, yellow and red, because they both refers to the attribute of color. And then we believe that explicitly modeling the relations between objects is intuitively helpful for learning concepts with contextualized meaning. And might also help to obtain similar embedding for homogeneous attributes. And consequently, this will benefit systematic generalizations. In order to explore about our idea, we actually need to choose a data set. So we choose the ground scan data set from the paper written by Rees et al. It's actually a data set that evaluates systematic generalizations in situated language understanding scenarios. So as the example on the right showcase, there is a grid road and there's a lot of objects in this grid road. And at each time, the agent is given a natural language command, for example, walk to the yellow small cylinder, and then it need to follow a specific of action token sequences that guide itself to move to the target. So in our case, it first needs to observe the grid road, identify the two yellow cylinders, and then identify the smaller one among the two, and then move itself to the correct location. So to be more specific, for the input of this ground scan dataset, we have a grid road with objects of different properties such as color, shape, size, and weight, etc. We are also given the agent's starting position as well as a natural language command. So the expected output, as you can see in the previous slide, will be a sequence of action tokens. Consists of pretty simple words like turn left or walk or turn right, etc. So the way that GroundScan tests about systematic generalization is that it has 9 different test sets that categorize unseen novel compositions in different aspects. So we will dive into the exact details about those different test sets in the evaluation section. So at the same time, gSCAN also provides a simple encoder-decoder baseline, and it actually achieves near perfect action token exact match accuracy on random speed test set, which means it can actually learn the training data. So at a very high level, the baseline consists of a BIOS-TM that is used to encode the natural language information. It consists of a convolutional network that encodes the grid row informations. And finally, it has LSTM with dual attention attended to both the information from the natural language command branch and the information from the convolutional net branch in order to decode the actual action token sequence. So our approach, so we first observed that the gSCAN baseline view actually views the grid row as a whole image and use a simple convolutional network to encode visual informations. We believe that this kind of approach discards relational information between objects present in the grid row. The next immediate question is that how can we actually obtain relational information, they are important for solving the task if relational information is crucial to system management generalizations. And our hypothesis is that we can actually use the natural language instruction that is accompanied with the grid world example to identify salient inter-object relations in a given grid world. So to materialize our hypothesis into an actual model, we propose a model architecture that looks like this slide. So the idea is that instead of viewing the grid world as the whole, we treat it as a collection of objects whose semantic meaning should be contextualized by their relations with one another. Therefore, we basically expand the CNN-based grid world encoder with a message passing module guided by the accompanying natural language instruction to obtain the contextualized grid world embedding. So here we use the red box to basically highlight the message passing module part. And next, I'm going to explain how exactly do we extract input from the grid world and then use message passing to construct contextualized embedding and then send the contextualized embedding for downstream CNN processing. So the first step in order to obtain the contextualized grid world embedding with message passing is that we need to project each object's properties one-hot representations into an embedding space. And then after that, we concatenate all of them as the object's local embedding, as you can see in the first column on the right. After that, we also need to initialize the object's context embedding with the local embedding. So before any message passing, we basically just copy the local embedding to be the initial context embedding. And then we need to construct a graph. So here we are taking a quite simple approach that will basically consider all the objects in the grid and the agents together form a complete graph. So in this example, we have 4 objects and 1 agent together, and they basically just form a complete graph. And then on this complete graph, we want to perform guided message passing to update each object's context embedding. How exactly that is done? Well, basically, we first compute the fused embedding from the concatenation of the local embedding and an object's previous round's context embedding. And then we use this fused embedding to compute message as well as message passing weights between each pair of objects with the information from the textual command. And then after we compute the message and the message weight, we basically send the message, the computed message to all the adjacent nodes of one node in this complete graph. And then on the receiver's end, we update the receiver's context embedding with a weighted sum and the projection of the received messages. So notice that our message passing module is actually adapted from the LGCN paper. After that, we need to project the concatenation of the object's local embedding as well as the context embedding of the final round of message passing back to the grid world. And at this stage, each object's embedding then is projected back to its original location in the grid. For cells in the grid that does not have any object, we basically just zero pad, basically pad it with a zero vector. And then we send this new tensor as the input to the downstream CNN encoder. So comparing our model against the baseline, we actually performed quite well, and we outperformed the baseline on basically the majority part of the different test rates. So let me give a quick introduction of different test rate. So for the random test rate, it's basically just like the normal test set that we see in other machine learning research. The test interchange data has no systematic differences. For the novel direction test rate, the target object is actually in novel directions with respect to the agent's start position in the test set. For example, in the training set, the agent has only seen target objects that, for example, it is north or it is south, but has never seen some target on its west or east. But in the test set, you need to perform that. For the relativity test rate, the target objects actually refer with novel size reference in the test rate. So for example, a yellow square with size 2 might never be referred to as a large square in the training set, but it might be referred so as like large square in the test rate. So for red squares test rate, it basically make the target object has novel color shape combination but it has never seen as the target during training. The yellow square test rate is a bit simpler than the red square test rate. The idea is that the target object has novel color shape combination, but it's never referred as so during training. So for example, maybe during training, we do see like an object such as red square as the target, but in the training like natural language command, we always refer that as the big square or the small square. But in test time, we need to refer that as move, for example, move to the red square. And this would be out of the distribution of the training set for the yellow square test rate. For the adverb to verb test rate, we basically test the agent's ability to translate unseen adverb and verb combination to action sequence. For example, if the agent has only seen push a square while zigzagging in training time, you need to be able to pull the square while zigzagging in testing time. For class inference, we test the agent's ability to learn, for example, push the target objects with different size, and then at test time, you need to generalize to put the target objects with different size at test time. So as you can see, on both basically all of the test rate, we actually outperform the baseline significantly. On the novel directions, we achieve modest performance increase, which is not too much. But on the relativity spread, red square, yellow square spread, adverb to verb spread, and the class inference rate, we actually outperform the baseline a lot. As a closer look of our evaluation result, we also choose an example from spread C, which is relativity evaluations. So you can see that on the left, we have the baseline attention map produced by the attention of the decoder with respect to the output of the CNN encoder. Well, you can see that like in the baseline case, the agent only attends to the target object while it does not know how to move to it. While in our case, the agent actually attends to all the necessary cells in the correct path to the target objects. This kind of behavior can also be observed in like another test rate, that is the concept generalization test rate. So in this case, you can see that in the baseline, even though the agent can correctly attend to the target object, it does not know how to actually move to it. And it basically focuses too much on zigzagging. While in our case, the agent actually only focus on or only attend on critical cells that is on the correct path to move to the target object positions, and it can learn that when zigzagging is not crucial, it's not necessary to move to the target object, it can actually not do that. So as an evaluation study, we also test that if we remove the message passing module completely, while only change the way we encode the group will, does our model performs better than the baseline? And the answer is sort of yes, but again, it is still inferior with respect to our full model. So you can see here that except for the adverb to verb test rate, our full model with message passing actually outperformed both the baseline and our model with no message passing by changed the way of grid row embedding. So as a conclusion, we propose a method to obtain language condition contextualized embedding in a grounded language navigation task. We actually shows that the obtaining such contextual embeddings will significantly improve the performance on learning and generalizing compositional properties as we actually obtain state-of-the-art result on the gSCAN dataset. We sincerely believe that this method has the potential to be applied to more complex environments in order to achieve systematic generalizations. Thank you so much for your time.